Good morning. Love all the energy in this room. Welcome to the Vashon Island Unitarian Universalists. My name is Julia Lakey, and I will be your service leader this morning. And if you're visiting, please participate as you feel comfortable. You're invited to stay and introduce yourself in conversation and enjoy all of the wonderful treats that the hospitality team has brought following our service. Our congregation is committed to individual freedom of belief. We welcome diversity. We seek to promote a sense of community and foster religion and enrich the spirit through all of that. We are a mostly lay-led community, strengthened and enriched by weaving together the volunteer contributions of members and friends. Our community is supported and guided by our minister, Reverend Victoria Poling. We acknowledge that we are on the traditional homelands of the Swabash Coast Salish Native people. The Puyallup people have lived and stewarded these lands since the beginning of time, and they continue to do so today. We recognize that this land acknowledgement is one small step toward true allyship, and we commit to uplifting the voices, experiences, and histories of the indigenous people of this land and beyond. We have 8 principles of shared UU faith. Today we honor respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are part. The social justice group has organized today's service, and we have a focus area on the environment. And if you don't happen to have a area that you are participating, we would love to expand our membership, so consider talking to me about it. As we begin our service, please take a couple of breaths to become fully present. You might even close your eyes. Bring your breath all the way down into your diaphragm and have a nice slow release. And do that a couple of times. Relax and bring your attention into this moment of communal reflection and sharing. And now, I'd like to invite Gay to light our chalice and share the reading and also our first reading.
Good morning. This is a quote from John O'Donohoe. May the fragrance of a breathing meadow refresh your heart and remind you you are a child of the earth. And when you partake of food and drink, may your taste quicken to the gift and sweetness that flows from the earth. May your inner eye see through the surfaces and glean the real presence of everything that meets you. In the opening reading, Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. The ceremonies that persist, birthdays, weddings, funerals, focus only on ourselves, marking rites of personal transition. We know how to carry out this rite for each other, and we do it well. But imagine standing by a river, flooded with those same feelings as the salmon march into the auditorium of their estuary. Rise in their honor, thank them for all the ways they have enriched our lives. Sing to honor their hard work and accomplishments against all odds. Tell them they are hope for the future. Encourage them to go off into the world to grow and pray they will come home. Then the feasting begins. Can we extend our bonds of celebration and support for our own species to the others who need us? Many indigenous traditions still recognize the place of ceremony and often focus their celebrations on other species and events in the cycle of the seasons. In a colonist society, the ceremonies that endure are not about land. They're about family and culture, values that are transportable from the old country. Ceremonies for the land no doubt existed there, but it seems they did not survive immigration in any substantial way. I think there is wisdom in regenerating them here as a means to form bonds with this land.
That's beautiful, Wyatt. It totally captures the sparkle of spring, the quickening. It's just fabulous. Get my pages organized here. So, we're moving on now to our time with our special speaker. And, last week was all the Easter hats and lovely outfits, and this week is Zero Waste Vashon. So this is a nonprofit that three of us co-founded on Vashon more than 10 years ago. And two of us co-founders have had to step off the board because of health issues with family members. But our bulwark has been Steve Bergman, who I met when he first got involved with Zero Waste. And he's just all over the island. So you may know him from Rotary, you may know him from beach cleanups, you may know him from Zero Waste and collecting the electronics. So he's all over the map. And I asked him to not only make it a focus around this wonderful organization, but his personal journey to this point. So he'll take us through a personal evolutionary story from pebble pup, I love that term, don't know where you came up with that, to rockhound, to geologist, to a researcher in the extractive resource industry, to university teacher, and back to industry, to now a retired gentleman geologist volunteer who has realized that we need to transition from fossil fuels to clean renewables, reduce our environmental impact, increase sustainable behaviors, and heal the earth that we have abused and damaged. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you, Julia, for the invitation to be part of your service today. It's an honor and a privilege to speak to you this morning. I plan to touch on 3 topics: waste and green energy on Vashon, the Zero Waste Vashon organization, and my motivation for being part of Zero Waste Vashon. But I'm going to do it in reverse order. Let me start by explaining what motivated me to get involved with Zero Waste Vashon and other island nonprofits. I grew up as a baby boomer in Dayton, Ohio, with a waste not, want not sign on the wall. And it was, if something broke in the house, we fixed it instead of tossing it. We believe that we should minimize our waste. I've always had an interest in science and the natural world, starting out as a pebble pup, as Julia mentioned. I mean, a pebble pup is just a small rockhound. Just to explain that, in case you were wondering. And then I developed an interest in geology in college and ended up majoring in geology and went to graduate school to get my PhD, with the plan to eventually teach at the university. This is back in the late 70s, when there was a real interest in hiring in industry. I wanted to get at least 3 to 5 years of experience in industry because that's where most students end up. And I wanted to have some firsthand experience so I could adequately teach students about the industry. So I became a researcher at ARCO in Dallas at the research lab. And I ended up spending 20 years there at the research lab because they had these fantastic resources and a freedom to pursue a lot of my interests, from minerals research to eventually in oil and gas exploration research. But then they got sold in Y2K and were bought by BP. And so I finally got to go to the university, and I taught for 5 years at the University of Texas at Dallas, which was really a joy. And during that time, somebody from Houston, from Shell Bel Air Research Lab, called up and said, "Why don't you come and join us?" And I was lured down to Houston and was there at the research lab for 11 years before retiring. And somehow, my wife and I luckily ended up here on Vashon in 2014 in this fantastic community with all this fantastic natural beauty we have. So I soon decided it was time to give back to the community and have become an island volunteer as a result of benefiting from this fantastic knowledge that I've been gifted in my career. So let's dive into Zero Waste Vashon for a moment. As Julia mentioned, this nonprofit formed in 2014 and is entirely volunteer-based. Our mission is to help make our island a model waste-to-resource community by partnering with many organizations and very committed volunteers on the island. Our goal is to inspire our residents to reduce, reuse, rethink, and recycle through activism and education. Our main focus, deals with organic waste on the island For the last 8 years, we've been working with King County to get an on-island compost facility built, with its funding being secured and approved by King County Council in December of 2023, which was a huge accomplishment. We were so pleased. However, sadly, the project just got a 1-year delay by the county, meaning that we might not see it completed until 2029, another 5 years. Unless we can intervene, and this is where we're asking you to join our activism to convince the county to speed up this process and put it on the fast track and with a sense of urgency. Right now, we need to save the $300,000 a year that the county is spending to ship our organic waste to Cedar Grove to get treated into compost in Maple Valley. What a waste of carbon going on the ferry, and every other day there's a truck you'll see going to Cedar Grove. Why not keep it here on the island and generate our own compost so we don't have to truck it back onto Vashon? We need to enrich our soil, and this is a great way to do it. We send over 1,000 tons of organic waste every year to Cedar Grove. In 2015, we did the 3-year Waste to Garden research project in the field behind the IGA to test alternative soil amendments with vegetables going to the food bank. And it turned out that biochar compost mix performed the best for the plants. We had a 2020 Profiles in Compost seminar series, and you can find links to all these wonderful interviews in people's backyards on our website. We partner with Vashon Makerspace in many ways. Even through COVID, we built 2 recycling stations at the Village Green and Over Park. I'm sure you've seen them all. They've got, thanks to King County CSA for giving us the funding for all the materials, and we had 4 high school students help us build them, and we thank their instructors for teaching the kids how to build these sheds. And for the island artists and for the murals. And we have to thank Vashon Parks for maintaining them and emptying the recycling and the trash. Eventually, we're going to have a slot for organic waste that goes to our compost facility on the island. We also partner with the Makerspace on Vashon Fix-It Cafe. The next one is coming up Saturday, May 10th from 10 to 2 over at Open Space. So you can go online to sign up if you need anything fixed. It's been a fantastic option. And if you're a fixer and you would like to join our community, we welcome you to join our Fix-It community. We have about 15 fixers, and it's such a great environment, a sense of camaraderie and community, and it's amazing the things that people bring in to fix. It's so cool. You might remember our Bring Your Own Mug campaign back in pre-COVID times. Thanks for bringing your own mug to island tea and coffee shops. We don't need to use these disposable cups anymore when we can easily just bring our own. We sponsor the Choose Plastic Free campaign led by Celia, Nancy, and Leslie, which has had major impact on the island with the new reusable stainless steel cups that I'm sure you've all seen at the Beverage Garden at Strawberry Festival. And any nonprofit is able to borrow these for free just by contacting the Chamber of Commerce. So those are available too. We handed off Nadine's Sunday recycling program to Ridwell in August 2023 because we didn't want to compete with them and because we were exhausted. After 5 years, the program totaled over 8,000 hours of volunteer time. We recycled 5,300 cubic yards of styrofoam. And I can't even imagine how many large trucks that comprises, but it's a lot of styrofoam. It all went to Styro Recycle over in Kent, where they melt it down and they make these ingots that are used for molding and buildings and all sorts of things. Much better use for polystyrene than the landfill. We also sent 95 tons of plastics to get recycled and not sent to the landfill. They were sent to DTG where they use them for fuel for making cement, which generates less carbon dioxide than the wood they were using before, the pig fuel, they call it. We had a great turnout at our electronics recycling event 2 weeks ago. Over the last 8 years, we've diverted over 40 to 50 tons of electronics from the landfill and recycled to better use. We work with SBK in Fife. They come over, they bring the truck, and then we filled up 2 truckloads 2 weeks ago. Thanks to all the volunteers for helping with that, Julia and everyone. A new major project we're evaluating is an on-island reuse facility. It's sort of a grandpa's shed equivalent of Granny's attic. We don't know where it's going to be. It's for recycling building materials and other things that grannies can't handle, which would be a great thing. I mean, I don't know if you've been to the recycling center, but and to see the transfer station material that's thrown into the dump, but perfectly good materials that could be used. A lot of other islands are doing this up in Lopez and San Juan, and we should be able to do it here too. We just need a location. So if you guys are familiar with a good location for 3,000 to 5,000 square feet that's centrally located in town and accessible, K2 would be perfect, but unfortunately that hasn't happened yet. We're waiting for it to be sold. But we need a location. We sponsor environmental movies and presentations at the VCA, Vashon Theater, and the Land Trust, and we've awarded over 10 Vashon High School scholarships through the Jerry Henley Fund. He was one of our original founders. We partner with Vashon Rotary on the epic Vashon Beach Cleanup, which is taking place on Saturday, May 17th. I'm sure you've seen all the flyer that's up on the bulletin board. You can just Google Vashon Epic Day of Service Rotary, and you'll be able to sign up as a volunteer. We're focusing on tires. I'm sure you've seen all the tires on our beaches. And we were just out yesterday, 3 volunteers, George Spano, Keller Syra, and Aaron Keeper, brought their boats out, and we collected over 26 huge tires. Some of them were big truck tires that were all buried in the sand. We unearthed them, and we transported them just as a dry run. And they're sitting over at Jensen Point right now until we got to do this a couple more times. So we need your help to find all these rogue tires that are sitting on the beach. So if you see any, take a picture and just send me a picture of it. We'd really appreciate that. But this Vashon beach cleanup on the May 17th, it's going to be a general beach cleanup. So we're asking people to come to either Jensen Point or Docton Park, pick up your bags and your materials, and you can go to whatever beach you want, pick up all the trash, bring it back, and we've got King County Solid Waste recycling our tires for free. They're going to do that, and they're going to handle all of our recycling and landfill materials. So they're really helping out a lot. And we'll have a booth at this year's Low Tide Celebration at Point Robinson. It's the 17th annual Low Tide Celebration. It's on June 28th from 11 to 3, and we're going to have another beach cleanup there to provide help for getting rid of all that. So we invite you to check out our zerowastevashon.org website. It's got lots of resources and upcoming events. And please let us know if you have any ideas to better yet, if you can, volunteer, join our crew to help us make Vashon a model waste-to-resource community. So let's move on from the Vashon to the big picture. We live on an island, yet are heavily dependent on off-island resources. The environmental footprint of our waste is much larger than what we see in our trash cans. It's well concealed in the production and supply chains and really well hidden. But in nature, there is no waste. And we've forgotten that important principle. Somehow we've become this throwaway society where disposables are good and easy. And I think we have to change back to the way it was back before plastics and before all these disposables were made popular. These things seem to be driven by corporate culture that is trying to sell us stuff, only to throw it away. And we don't have to do that anymore. I think that model has failed. Early on, Native peoples were one with their environment and practiced a circular economy. In contrast, during the last several centuries, the developed world has evolved into a linear economy of take, make, use, and waste. Linear just doesn't work. We don't need waste. There is no waste. There should be no waste. Everything is a resource. We should be using everything that we have on this planet. The planet and its inhabitants would greatly benefit from returning to a circular economy in which extraction and waste are minimized. When it comes to global equity, the United States, with its 4% of global population, disproportionately uses its resources. We use 20% of global energy. We use 15% of earth materials. And we generate 12% of the world's waste when we're only 4% of the world's population. Is this fair, I ask you? I don't think so. Sadly, the environmental costs of many of the items we buy are not included in their purchase price. And this has to change. We need some major systemic changes to properly reflect the true environmental cost of materials that we buy and energy we use. Let's just consider some facts. In the United States, the total raw material use totals about 24 tons per person per year. We each use, on average, as a country, 24 tons per person per year. This includes energy, construction materials, metals, and food. I mean, just imagine that number, 24 tons, 48,000 pounds. I mean, it's just amazing. And for every 1 ton of waste that we generate in the United States, 20 to 40 tons of industrial upstream waste are generated before the product even gets to us. So it's this terrible cycle that we've entered into, mostly for convenience. You know, a lot of this is convenience related. But there's good stuff here. Vashon household electricity use is nearly 50% higher than the average in King County. We have, on Vashon, we use about 12.5 megawatt hours versus King County average of 8 to 9 megawatt hours. But the real positive news is that 7% of Vashon households have solar systems now, generating about 5% of the electricity that we use on the island. This number has doubled in the last 5 years and is continuing to grow. So we're on the right track there. Nearly twice as many King County households use natural gas to heat their homes than those on Vashon. So we're good there. 43% in King County and 26% on Vashon. Vashon's recycling rate is 10 times that of the average King County recycling rate per person. Only about 1/50th of a ton of people's waste in King County is recycled, and over 1/4 of a ton of our waste is recycled per year, per person. But we have some negative points too. Vashon residents generate nearly twice the landfill as the average King County resident. 3/4 of a ton of waste is generated on Vashon versus about 4/10 of a ton in the average King County household or resident. Vashon residents generate about 10% more carbon dioxide than the average King County resident. On a household basis, about 40 tons of CO2 are generated each year by our consumption-based emissions versus about 42 tons in King County. So we're not that far behind King County, but I think we can do a lot better A lot of we're doing a climate study here on Vashon. Kevin Jones is leading it up, and in the next year, you should hear the results of the plans for reducing our carbon footprint for the island that's custom fit for Vashon. So to conclude, we've seen how Vashon is working towards being a model green community in terms of converting waste to resources and increasing our renewable energy production. We've been making great strides, yet have a long way to go towards zero waste goals and net zero carbon. Most importantly, this will require us to cut our consumer-based thirst for more stuff. I believe that individually and as a society, we need to do these 4 things with a sense of urgency. We need to transition from fossil fuels to clean, renewable energy. We need to reduce our environmental footprint. We need to increase our basic sustainable behaviors so there's future resources left for our offspring and the rest of the planet. And we need to heal the earth that we have collectively abused and damaged. I realize that many of this group have already participated in these types of behaviors, and I thank you for all you do. Thanks again for having me, and I'm happy to answer any questions this morning that you might have. Yeah. There's over 600 actual installations on the island. Yeah, it's growing. It's over 600. PSE is so nice. They share the data, the monthly data with us. So if people are interested, I can send you a little summary of all that and share it with everyone.
Companies that are union companies installing solar on the island. One of the
Artisan? Yeah, yeah, we got an artisan system. Yeah. So the owner and the vice president both live on Vashon, even though the company is based over in Seattle. But artisan is great. Great. Yeah, we have one at our house too. We have a battery as well for power outages. Right, okay?
Stove and the water heater. What would be some options to convert that?
So heat pumps are a great way to, in fact, there's even a new hybrid heat pump that uses, it's for water heater. Yeah, we just installed one in our renovation, and it uses, it's a heat pump technology, but it also, when it needs, it uses a little bit of actual resistance heating, but it's 8 times as efficient as a regular electrical heat pump.
So I had a heat pump put in at one mini split in the living room, so would it be linked to that, or would it be a whole separate?
It would be a whole separate thing for the heat, the water heater.
And then
And the stove, it's just an electric stove, yeah. Induction heating is really efficient, more efficient than the induction heating stoves, or better than the regular resistance heating. Yes?
For those who don't know, PSE will disconnect your gas line at no cost. They make like, they have to come and check out all the underlying things, but
Wow.
if you were to get it, yeah, we pay now $7.49 a month to PSE for maintaining the
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
yeah. So that's
Interesting.
Well, lots of interest. So we do get to keep Steve for a little bit after. So we'll have more Q&A, but it's lovely. Thanks all for sharing.
Thanks.
Now I have to find my pages, not just his pages. So that, not only a time of lovely music, but a time for contemplation. And, you know, I noticed some reaction when you hear some of Steve's data. You go, how can that be? On this island, how can we be doing that? So, but, you know, there'll be a time, not only the reflection now, but if you want to follow up with Steve and with Zero Waste. So we're now going to pause the recording as we prepare for. And now we are going, if you're comfortable, please join us in singing There Is a Love. And the words are printed on the inside of the gray hymnal, inside the cover. And Wyatt will help us along.
So I could do this song without the music, but could I have the music for We Give Thanks?
Okay, yeah. And we'll now resume recording as we finish the service. So, for our offertory, our congregation engages beyond our walls for peace, social and economic justice, freedom of belief, and protection of our planet and its inhabitants. And once a month, we contribute our financial offering to a regional, national, or international organization that aligns with our values. And this week's offering supports Zero Waste Vashon. We've been fortunate enough to hear from Steve firsthand the important work that this organization is doing, and also the reprioritizing that we need to do in our own households. So please give generously. And as the offering basket is going around, if you could please join in singing, We Give Thanks. And again, the words are on the inside cover. Share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. All gathered here and those far away. For it's time we share with love and care. We give thanks for this precious day. Lovely. And now our final reading is with Robbie.
Nature by Ralph Waldo Emerson. If a person would be alone, let him look at the stars. If the stars should appear one night in 1,000 years, how would people believe and adore and preserve for many generations the remembrance of the city of God which had been shown? But every night come out these preachers of beauty and light the universe with their admonishing smile. The stars awaken a certain reverence because, though always present, they are always inaccessible. But all natural objects make a kindred impression when the mind is open to their influence. Nature never wears a mean appearance. Neither does the wisest person extort all her secret and lose curiosity by finding out all her perfection. Nature never became a toy to a wise spirit. The flowers, the animals, the mountains reflect all the wisdom of one's best hour, as much as they had delighted the simplicity of childhood. To speak truly, few adult persons can see nature. The lover of nature is he or she whose inward and outward senses are still truly adjusted to each other, who has retained the spirit of infancy even into the era of adulthood. Intercourse with heaven and earth becomes part of one's daily food. In the presence of nature, a wild delight runs through the person in spite of real sorrows. Not the sun or the summer alone, but every hour and season yields its tribute of delight. For every hour and change corresponds to and authorizes a different state of the mind, from breathless noon to grimmest midnight. Nature always wears the colors of the spirit. In the woods, too, a person casts off years and is always a child. In the woods is perpetual youth.
So beautiful. Wyatt, your expressiveness is not only in your music, but it just pours out of your whole being. It's so wonderful to have you with us. What a treat. What a treat. So now's the time to extinguish our chalice, and that will be done by Jerry Gerke.
I have here an excerpt from Invitation by Mary Oliver. I see some head shaking. Oh, do you have time to linger for just a little while out of your busy and very important day? For the goldfinches that have gathered in the field of thistles. It could mean everything. It could be what Rilke meant when he wrote, "You must change your life." Now, I don't know about you, but Rilke was not on my vision. So we looked up this poet. He was a poet of the 18th and 19th century. Very, very influential Austrian-German poet. In keeping with the tradition, the early tradition in Europe, he was born with 6 names.
Luckily, Mary Oliver just went with the last one. I got so excited seeing you all, I forgot to start with this. Let's see. So, our formal service is now over, and I'd like to thank all of those who made it a special morning. Steve Bergman, and Wyatt Bate, and Gay Roselle, Robbie Rohr, Dennis, and setup group number 4, who have brought all these beautiful things and have lovely goodies for us to partake. And thank you all for being here. That's what makes it special. So we're now going to continue with VIUU announcements. So if anyone